After working as a janitor for 30 years, I finally saved enough money to buy a house for my son Jeff. Before his wedding, I was hospitalized due to an infection in my leg and couldn't attend. I wanted to give him all of my savings as a wedding gift, but then I accidentally overheard a conversation between the doctor and Jeff. Jeff, as your friend, I feel I should warn you. Your mother is getting older and her recovery isn't looking good. If her condition continues to worsen, we might have to consider amputating. You're just concerned about your real mother being at the wedding, but why push your stepmother to her limits? Let her amputate if it comes to that. It's not like I'll abandon her. But if she recovers too quickly, who knows what kind of drama she'll cause when she finds out my real mother is at the wedding instead of her. I quietly tucked my bank card away. The card that I have kept all my saving and which I intended to give the money to Jeff as his wedding gift. Since he had his real birth mother to care for, he probably wouldn't need the money I had saved for him after all. In the hospital, I overheard a conversation between Jeff and the doctor. Jeff said, "Since she's getting old, there's no point in wasting money on surgery. The steel pins in her leg aren't a major issue. She won't die from it, just treat it simply. She's always been proud. If she hadn't reached the point where she had to be hospitalized long-term, she would have crawled to my wedding. Mandy's parents are both university professors. How could I let them sit with a janitor?" The doctor looked uneasy after hearing this. "Jeff, we've been friends for years and I have to remind you your mother's getting older, and if her condition isn't addressed soon, we may need to amputate. You just want your birth mother to attend wedding instead of her. Why push her to the point of no return? Gina is such a vibrant person. She couldn't possibly bear spending the rest of her life in a wheelchair." Jeff remained unmoved by the doctor's words. He still made sure to emphasize that even if the wound didn't require surgery, I should be given the best medication to prevent any further complications. The doctor sighed heavily, seeing right through him. "She'll eventually see the wedding video. You can fool her once but not forever. There's no need to sacrifice her health for something that won't last." Jeff stood firm. "My birth mother gave me life. No one has the right to cruelly deny a mother the chance to be there for her son during such an important moment. If Gina hadn't adopted me, my birth mother would have found me by now. Sure, her mistakes led to us being separated, but I'm Gina's only son. Even if she needs an amputation, I won't turn my back on her. But for my wedding, only my birth mother can attend." Jeff's words hit me like a hammer, each word landing with a painful thud. I looked at my bank card in my hand and quietly put it away. When the doctor returned with the medication, he couldn't help but speak once more as they reached the door. "She's given everything for you. Are you really that heartless? All this for a mother who never raised you?" He stopped mid-sentence, seeing the look on Jeff's face. He knew then that Jeff had already made up his mind. Jeff wasn't just concerned about his birth mother. He was disgusted by me, his janitor of a mother, ashamed of me. But had he ever considered that it was I, the janitor, who put him through school, bought him a house and a car? His elegant birth mother and well-educated in-laws hadn't contributed a single dime. I never expected that the son I raised for 30 years would treat me like this. Overcome with anger and disbelief, I fainted on the hospital bed. But what shocked me even more was that Jeff's cruelty went far beyond what I could have imagined. The doctor quickly treated my wound and left. Jeff wiped my hands and face, assuming I was still asleep. Unaware of my conscious state, he casually began chatting with his fiancée, Mandy. He said, "Mandy, don't worry, my mom loves me so much that all her money will definitely go to me. Once I get it, I'll buy you that car you want. Darling, you've already sacrificed by marrying me, knowing who my mom is. I promise I'll make sure you have a happy life." A few times Mandy had made unreasonable requests, but I always thought that as long as they were happy, nothing else mattered. I never rejected their demands. I never imagined things would escalate like this, that now he wanted to use my money to buy her a car. Jeff didn't want me at his wedding, but the money for the car? That he was perfectly fine with me providing. What a devoted son. The day of the wedding she won't be there. I purposely used the most infection-prone tools and didn't perform surgery on her. If she doesn't have surgery on that leg within a month, it'll be ruined. She won't have the strength to cause trouble at the wedding. Don't worry, beautiful. After the wedding we'll have 2 gorgeous babies. My mom will be unable to move around, so we'll need to take care of her. But her savings will be enough to help us raise the kids. A sharp pain gripped my chest. My eyes involuntarily filled with tears. I never thought that, just to keep me from attending his wedding, he would plan something like this so meticulously. He was so small back then. I remembered walking past the orphanage when he grabbed my sleeve and refused to let go. Feeling a moment of compassion, I took him in. To give him a better life, I started my own business, hoping to make more money. But when the business failed and no other good job opportunities came my way, I had no choice but to work multiple jobs, doing all kinds of cleaning work. I pinched pennies to give him a better life, never once asking for anything in return. He was 30 years old now, and I still gave him a monthly allowance, worried that he might be struggling on his own. I'd spent half my life worrying about him, only to find that I couldn't compare to the mother who abandoned him. If he thought his birth mother was more dignified, let her pay for the car. As for me, I would no longer invest my emotions in them. While Jeff was out getting my medicine, he carelessly left his phone by the bedside. I knew his password, so unlocking it was easy. That's when I discovered he had been in contact with his birth mother for a long time. She had sent him a photo of the two of them having dinner together. The woman in the photo was about my age when I was young, but she looked much younger than I did now. For years I had worked tirelessly to save money for Jeff. I never dared take a break, always out in the sun and wind. Now, with his wedding approaching, I thought I could finally relax. But I had seen online how much more difficult it was for young people today to raise children, and I feared my grandchildren would suffer. So I pushed myself even harder, working day and night to help save money for them. Years of this had taken its toll. Looking at myself in the mirror, I could see that I had aged far more than people my age. "Mom, you're so beautiful. Thank you for giving me such excellent genes," Jeff said, speaking to his birth mother with such affection. It was always him talking more, her saying less. He even video called her frequently. I thought about my own conversations with Jeff. It was always me asking him questions, and aside from asking for money, he rarely responded. Video calls and photos were even rarer. Back then, I thought maybe Jeff was just shy about showing his love for me. But now I realized it was because he was ashamed of me. I pulled out my phone and sent a message to my best friend, Heidi. Since his birth mother was so wonderful, Jeff surely wouldn't need my help in the future. I asked Heidi to help me contact the best orthopedic doctor. I didn't need to save money anymore. Now I could choose the best hospital and the most expensive doctor. Jeff wanted to trap me, to drain me of everything I had, yet he didn't even show me the most basic respect. He thought I was just a selfless mother, that even if one day I discovered what he had done, I would never be able to scold him. But he had forgotten one thing. Before I was a mother, I was an independent woman. When Jeff came back and saw me sending a message, his eyes were filled with excitement. He pretended to sound concerned, saying, "Mom, you're awake? I saw you unconscious for so long. I was afraid you wouldn't wake up. I'm about to have my wedding and you're such an important guest. I've been looking forward to seeing my heroic mother make her grand entrance." As he said this, his voice seemed to carry a hint of grievance. "But the doctor said you need to rest for a while, so you definitely won't be able to attend my wedding. It's such a shame that you'll miss it. I always kept my cleaning tools neatly in their designated spot. If Jeff hadn't moved them around, I never would have stepped on the sharp, pointed tool. It was my fault for caring so much about him in the past, letting him think my feelings didn't matter." I reached out and gently ruffled his hair. I said, "I was careless, but don't worry. I'll definitely attend your wedding." When Jeff heard this, his eyes showed a fleeting panic. He quickly corrected himself. "No, that's not it." Realizing he had said the wrong thing, he tried to explain. "The doctor said you can't move around too much right now. There will be a lot of socializing at the wedding and it'll be too hard for you. I don't want you to push yourself to attend." I smiled softly, watching him continue with his lies. "Even though you've left these regrets in my life for not able to be attending the wedding, I don't blame you. I know you meant well. I'll hire an actor to attend on your behalf." "But Mom, didn't you say you had some savings for me before the wedding? When do you plan to give it to me?" He started by blaming me for being careless and causing my injury, even going as far as implying that he was being generous, forgiving my mistake and still willing to accept my money. What a generous gift. Maybe it was because I hadn't agreed to hand over the money yet, but Jeff was clearly getting anxious. At that moment, he no longer cared about me not being able to move. He put me in a wheelchair and insisted I come watch his wedding rehearsal. "Mom, Mandy's a bit shy, so stay away from them. I'm worried the smell of the medicine on you might make them uncomfortable." "Them? Did that include his birth mother too? Jeff thought he was hiding it well, but little did he know, I had already seen his dignified birth mother long before he thought I would. The kept mistress of an old rich man. Now that was some real dignity. Jeff placed me in a small, separate room before quickly rushing out. I rolled myself in the wheelchair toward the venue. After all, I had spent money preparing for this wedding, and even though it was destined to end in disappointment, I still wanted to witness it in its moment of fleeting calm. As I neared the venue, I overheard some of the staff chatting as they set up. Have you heard? The family we're decorating the wedding for is pretty interesting. Apparently, they're having the real mother pose as a hired actress to attend the wedding in place of the adoptive mother. Why isn't the adoptive mother coming herself? She's sick, I think. But I mean, how could the adoptive mother possibly be as close to the kid? Of course, he'd be closer to his real mom. If it were me, I'd just let the real mom come. Who would dare stop her? I saw his real mom earlier, dressed head to toe in designer clothes. Looks like a successful, independent woman. I heard the adoptive mom is a cripple. She's here today? What a shame. Their words made my chest tighten even more. I pushed my wheelchair toward the banquet hall door. The door was slightly ajar, just enough to see the figures inside. Mandy pulled out an expensive-looking camel wool scarf as a greeting gift, her face plastered with a flattering smile. Carrie, Jeff's told me so much about you. He always said you were a beauty, and I thought he was just boasting, but now I can see he wasn't lying. I remembered how every time Mandy saw me, her face was always so somber, and Jeff explained that it was because she wasn't feeling well. She had been unwell once, but it seemed like every time they had a meeting, she was suddenly unwell. I thought she was just young and naive, so I didn't hold it against her. Turns out she knew how to butter up the elders when it suited her. But I didn't blame her, not really. She was after all Jeff's fiancée, and her attitude toward me was largely influenced by him. Carrie stepped into another corner to take a call, and I heard Mandy speaking quietly to Jeff. Your real mom's all decked out in designer clothes. He clearly has money. If we can win her over, we could definitely get a bigger house, and we wouldn't have to keep living in that tiny apartment your mom bought for us. Mandy was trying to charm Carrie because she thought she could buy them a new house. The apartment I bought for them was only because they were getting married, and there were no suitable houses available at the time. I'd actually already found a larger standalone house, and if not for all this, I would have signed the contract by now. Well, now I've saved myself a lot of money. I watched Carrie talking on the phone, and I couldn't help but think back to a few years ago when I first found her. Back then, she made herself very clear. She didn't want Jeff, and she didn't want to deal with the baggage, what she called nothing more than a burden to her. She told me not to look for her again, that we should never see each other for both our sakes. Such a woman. And now Mandy was hoping Carrie would buy them a house? He might as well be dreaming. When the priest arrived for the rehearsal, he naturally assumed I should be the groom's mother and was about to wheel me through the door. But as the door opened, Jeff's face turned pale for a moment, quickly recovering and telling the priest that Carrie was actually his mother. The priest had seen me before when we signed the wedding venue contracts, and now, hearing Jeff's words, his expression grew complex. Jeff had originally brought me here saying I would attend the rehearsal as his mother, but now that Carrie was here, I clearly didn't have a place anymore. As they began the rehearsal, I received a message from Heidi. Heidi told me that the top orthopedic doctor had been arranged, and I could be admitted to the hospital at any time. She confirmed one last time, but that's the son you've raised for 30 years. What if he has a change of heart? That him realized he had done wrong and asking you for forgiveness? Will you soften? Maybe, I replied. I glanced up at the harmonious trio on stage. But I didn't believe there was any chance for him to turn around. Once I finish what I need to do, you can take me to another hospital. Since our mother-son bond was coming to an end, I would give him one last gift. The rehearsal ended and it was time for dinner. Jeff had chosen an expensive-looking restaurant. They probably thought I was old and hard of hearing, so they didn't bother being discreet. I overheard Mandy quietly say, "This place is too expensive, we don't need to come here. We still need to save up for a bigger house." Jeff waved her off. "Don't worry about the money when you're with Gina. She'll secretly pay for it. She's disabled now and will only drag me down later. She better behave herself. I can't make my real mom suffer. She's used to high-end places." Halfway through dinner, I told them I needed to use the restroom and pushed my wheelchair out. Neither Mandy nor Jeff showed any concern about how I would manage using the restroom given my condition. Instead, they exchanged a glance, clearly assuming I was going to pay the bill. I struggled to roll the wheelchair to the door, but after fiddling with it for a while I couldn't open it. Jeff, seeing me struggle, remained seated and didn't move. Mandy didn't bother either. Then Carrie stood up and said, "Let me take you to the restroom." Jeff quickly stood up, his eyes full of concern for Carrie. "No need. She can manage on her own. Don't trouble yourself." When I looked at him, he changed his tone. "My mom's always been strong and proud. She doesn't like to trouble others." "Thank you," I said to Carrie, my voice cool. Although I was cutting ties with Jeff, I still had a few words to say to Carrie. Just as we reached the corner of the stairs, before I could speak, Carrie suddenly shoved the wheelchair hard forward. My feet and the chair slammed into the wall. The sharp pain shot through me and sweat beaded on my forehead. "Carrie, what are you doing?" "What am I doing? Gina, didn't I tell you not to let that burden come looking for me? Why didn't you listen? I almost got caught." Carrie's gentle demeanor in front of Jeff had vanished, replaced by a harsh, demanding tone. "This is just a warning. I'm telling you, I have no money to take care of him. If he wants to call me mom, that's his business. I'll help out if you